Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Greetings, all you Heaping Spoonful listeners. I'm Kelly Bass, your podcast host, and I appreciate Benny Keith Foods giving me the opportunity to visit twice a month with chefs and restaurateurs who help make the Mid-South dining scene one of the highlights of living in this great part of the country. I have transitioned to podcast interviewer after being a restaurant reviewer and feature writer for decades for a couple of Little Rock newspapers and magazines. And I'll tell you that talking about food is a lot more fun than writing about it. Our guest on Heaping Spoonful today is Tracy Carter, the owner-operator of JAC's Craft Smokehouse in West Monroe, Louisiana. So welcome to Heaping Spoonful, Tracy.
Hey, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. Our guests on Heaping Spoonful have told some really interesting stories, and everybody's story is a little bit different. But yours and your wife Kristi's story is like none other. Your food business started in 2005, not as a restaurant, not as a caterer, not as a food truck, but as a maker and seller of seasonings and sauces, more than 40 varieties in all. So I can only guess that if you get to the point where you launch that business, that you have made these at home and your friends and family thought they were good and you thought they were good and you decided they were good enough to sell. So tell us how the JAC's Tailgaters seasonings and sauces business got started way back in 2005.
Well, wow, that's a long way back, but we just kind of got to looking for some salsa, to be honest with you. And I went to the store and couldn't find anything I liked. So I just started playing until I came up with something. And then friends and family were like, man, you need to sell this stuff. You need to sell this stuff. And then a friend of mine sent me a competition letter about salsa and different sauces and stuff. And I said, okay, I'm going to enter. So I made up 4 or 5 different sauces and I won 3 out of the 5 categories that I entered in. So it was like a beginning, just kind of a sign. Let's just get started. And it took off from there.
That's really great. Well, you got good early validation when you take 3 out of 5 spots and you're just getting started. You're doing something right. That's for sure. And so they clearly were popular products. And I also see they were acclaimed. You just talked about 3 awards that you won right there. And I saw an article that said your seasoning and sauces won more than 40 national awards. And that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's really unbelievable, because I didn't set out to win awards with products. I really set out to get that reaction from people, that look when they first taste something. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I set out to do with that. But we've just been blessed with that, to start there with that piece of it.
Yeah, well, again, like you say, validation right off the bat. So meanwhile, you and Kristi were both holding down full-time jobs. You were raising kids. Did you all do all this yourself, or did you have helpers that handled the seasoning sauces business, or did you just whip it up yourselves?
So I created every recipe, and Kristi was really my closer. Like if there was something missing, I did that. But we used co-packers to keep us going in that business. We didn't try to go that alone simply because the health regulations. And to be quite honest, we didn't have the time working full-time jobs and running kids. But we spent a lot of time in the kitchen developing stuff.
So you basically supplied the recipes and then you had folks who made them for you and packaged them up for you and all that, which, like you say, there's health regulations. You can't just start whipping up a bunch of sauce in your kitchen and sending it off. Were these sold online, or did you have a storefront, or were they distributed in retail? What was the sales model?
So what we did there, with us both being so busy and stuff, we really did a lot of online selling, and we had several little mom and pop type stores and gourmet stores that we sold them in at the time. And we also used that as an excuse for me and Kristi to travel a little bit. So we did a lot of different food shows and industry type shows like the Houston Hot Sauce Festival, the Zest Fest, and Dallas and so forth, those kinds of things. We actually launched the very first Louisiana traditional hot sauce festival in New Orleans, Louisiana, back in 2008.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I've been to trade shows and other places, and come around. But with my relationship with Benny Keith Foods, of course, they have a food show, and you see all these folks that are making different things that they're then sold through Benny Keith. But they're also often sold in, as you said, gourmet shops and little delis and stuff. So it's always fun. I can think of salsas and other things that I buy, around Little Rock, where I'm from, same type thing. So I was curious. So the name is JAC's, and the J and the A and the C are capitalized. What's the history of that name?
So that's my son's initials, Jordan Allen Carter. There's a long story about him. My son is 29 years old now, but he was not suspected to live through the first week of his life.
Oh, wow.
But here he is. He's 29 years old, coming up to 27th, actually.
Oh, cool. So he was an inspiration for you. So you said, let's put our son's name on the product.
Yep. Put his name up in lights is what I always told him.
Yeah. And I hope he's a healthy 29-year-old or almost 29 years old.
Oh, he is. He's a college graduate and doing well. So. Wow.
Yeah. Well, again, count your blessings when you think you might lose your son early in life, and then he ends up thriving. So that's fabulous. So long before you had a food trailer and long before you opened a restaurant, you were already using your products to create meals to give to less fortunate people. And you gave away your products, I believe, in hopes of getting people interested in cooking. Tell our listeners about Kristi's and your commitment to helping others and how that's played out in your business.
Oh, wow. That's what our whole model's based off of. We've just always felt like that. Many times in the Bible, it was mentioned getting around the table and feeding people. And I follow that example because I believe more things can be, settled at the dinner table. Memories can be made. Happiness and family can be strengthened. So that was really kind of a draw and for us to do this. And to this day, I really feel like that's the important part of us being fortunate enough to be able to do what we love and a passion that we need to share that with others. And hopefully, if we can help just one person through our food, then I believe we did what we were set out to accomplish.
Yeah, well, that's fabulous. And we're recording this, and I'll mention this later, that we're recording this in mid July of 2021, and of course we're 16 months deep in a pandemic, and we all know that caused hardships for so many people, and a lot of good-hearted folks in the restaurant and food business have made it a point even more in the last 16 months to try to help others. So it sounds like that was a mantra for Kristi and you all for forever, really. So that's great. And then, so you're all are going along, and you got your seasoning and sauce business going. You're traveling, you're going to shows. Meanwhile, you're raising kids, and you got jobs, and then you both get job promotions, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, we're more obligated to our day jobs than we've ever been, and maybe there's not time for sauces and seasonings anymore.
Yeah, that's correct. We did. And at the time we had, 3 kids in college, and we just had to make a decision on how we were going to go. And I had such loyal and dedicated customers. I just couldn't let my lack of time be able to stop some of the good things that we'd already started. So we chose, and we prayed about it, and we chose to be able to kind of put that business on hold, but we left it in such a way that, like, if we ever decide to pick up the bottling process of it again, we could pick right back up where we were at. We went to our customers, the ones that were utilizing us maybe in their restaurants and stuff, gave them a good alternative, or even some places we gave the recipe to. For them to be able to continue to use, to not mess their stuff up. So that's kind of what we did. Now that we're back in the food business, people are really wanting us to pick that part of it back up. But it's just not time yet.
No, I understand. So how many years was it between? Because I think the next step when you got back kind of into the food business, besides the fact that you were helping people along the way, which is just part of your lives, how long was it between when you had to suspend that side of the business and when you opened, got your food trailer up and running?
So it was 2 years. It was 2 very long years. Let me just say that, because I miss creating. I miss doing that. Yeah, sure. It's one thing creating around the house, but it wasn't in that grand scheme, So it was 2 years, and then I got the bug, and I was like, I got to do something. So that's when I bought the food truck.
Yeah, I see. So then again, clearly you've been cooking forever, because you wouldn't know about these seasonings and sauces if you weren't putting them on food, and that's how you first got going, because you weren't finding the ones you liked. So actually cooking for a living, or food coming out of your food truck was, and that's a new step. But so did you just, again, you made the leap because you were ready to get back in the business, and so you were able to procure a food truck and then just started going where you went and selling things? Or was the menu any similarities to what you're doing today, or was it something completely different?
Yes, it is. It is. A lot of similarities to what we're doing. When I first started the food truck, though, my very first event that I went out to was at a festival on the river. And there was a guy there that was doing barbecue. So I was like, he'd been doing it forever and ever there. And I was like, man, I don't want to step on that guy's toes. So I came up, I said, okay, I'm just going to do tacos. I just threw it out there, and we were slammed that day. So they did. So I kind of started out, I was doing more of that because, people just loved it. But it wasn't what I felt like I was supposed to do. So then we just started rolling with the barbecue portion of it, and everything in my restaurant today was born on that food truck.
Yeah, you're not the only one I've heard say that. That's really cool, because it's a testing ground, and you get immediate response from the public on whether they like it or not, and you can see what's selling and how much they're liking it. And I also will tell you a theme of these podcasts and talking to folks like you is, so often it started with that seeing the smile on the face of the person that just took a bite of what you created and saying, man, that makes me feel good. So the food truck's an instant gratification way to do that.
Yes, it is. It is. And that's what it's about. Owning a restaurant, you're not going to get rich at it. A lot of people think you will, but you don't. You got to have the love and passion for this, right? Truly, that's what it is. It's about the love and passion about the people and gratifying them, because they're spending their hard-earned money with you, right?
Sure. And yeah, you're right. Plus, if you go back and look at what you make per hour, it's probably not a great wage, because it's time-consuming business for sure.
Precisely.
So again, just to carry on the story. So, you guys took your 2-year break. You both gotten promoted in your jobs. You got the food truck up and running. You're crewing along, and then you lose your job. So that must have really felt like a sign that maybe this food business is really where I ultimately belong.
Oh, wow. It really was a sign. We've been talking about me going out feeding and stuff. I was feeding in the middle of a tornado after the tornado came into this area down here. And I just felt a peace, Kelly. And I just kind of, I prayed, and I was like, God, I know this is what you want me to do more of. I said, but I'm comfortable. So if you want me to do this, you got to make a way. 3 weeks later, I got my pink slip.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a shock, definitely a shock to the system. And again, so you have your food truck, and you're doing festivals, and you're going around doing good works. And then I know besides that tornado you mentioned, there was a flood in your area in 2016, which I think gave you another opportunity to do good.
It did. My church originally had said, they were responsible for feeding. One of the churches responsible for feeding during that time. And along the way with my food truck, my food sauce and seasonings, I did some competition barbecuing and became friends with a lot of people. And one of those was Stan Hayes, the founder of Operation Barbecue Relief. So I gave them a call. They came down, and we fed that in 2016. We fed 55,000 people. We put out 55,000 meals within about four days. Is what we did. And then again, this last year, I contacted them. They were in Lake Charles. They couldn't spare the people, but they also helped me with some of the food. And I was able to feed 6,000 up here last September. In the process of while I was trying to get my restaurant up and going too, I still was able to do that all through that organization. I can't take complete credit because, they supplied a lot of the proteins and stuff for us. And And then I just went off and, got the rest of the stuff. But it's definitely a passion that I continue to do that. And we do that at Thanksgiving time. We have a goal to feed 1,000 families, every Thanksgiving.
Well, I think it's important that we all remind ourselves that so many of us never have to worry where our next meal is coming from, but there is a much larger percentage of our population, sad to say, that does. And, particularly kids and, kids that are hungry don't learn well. I mean, they just, what else can you focus on except that you don't have enough food to eat? So lots of good folks that are, particularly those like you who have the equipment and have the knowledge and have the network of colleagues and friends that get together and make those kind of meals. I mean, 55,000 meals. You got to learn how to cook in bulk to do that. Or even 6,000 meals or 1,000 meals. That's crazy. So then here we are. You're helping during the pandemic, and you're, like you say, you're trying to get a restaurant open. So you're in a historic building that'll be on my tour when I can launch my Heaping Spoonful tour, because I'm every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, I want to come eat at your restaurant. And I start looking at your menu. We're going to talk more about some menu items here in a little bit. But so this is a historic building that I read that Kristi had her eye on for a while. So is this just something in your town that you knew about? And tell us about that building. And then, of course, Kristi leaves her job and you guys get going on the restaurant. So talk us through that process.
Sure. So back when we had the sauce and seasoning business, my parents had a little shop down here on Antique Alley. Their health got kind of down, and so Kristi and I kind of joined in with them, and we started KK's Gourmet, which was just the place for us to sell our sauces and seasonings. And as I mentioned, we traveled around at a lot of these different other shows and stuff. We brought a lot of the other people's stuff in that we became friends with and stuff. But this building was a starter and alternator place at one time. It originally started out as a gas station, but it became a starter and alternator place. And while Kristi and I were down there, this building became vacant. We wanted this building so bad, and my wife said, one day, in Jesus' name, we're going to get that building. But it wasn't the right time, right? It wasn't the right time. We had kids that we had to get through college and school, and it just wasn't the time. And so last year on her birthday, we got the call that this building was coming available.
Oh, that's
and it just, it really is.
And she said,
"Look,
honey, I told you we were going to do this, and all these years later, we've done it." That's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So as you plan and, get ready for the restaurant, and clearly there's a lot more involved in a restaurant in terms of furniture and equipment and things that you don't have to deal with in a food truck. But it seems to me, that between your sausage and seasonings business and then all the cooking you've done, both in helping other people and in your food truck, did you have a pretty good confidence level when you were ready to open up your restaurant that you knew what you were doing?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But I did have the confidence in me putting the right team together and knowing that I could do that. And to be honest, I was so blessed with the people that I was able to get. For instance, the previous owner of this building, of the establishment, because it was a bakery, Miss Kay's, actually, bakery here. The owner of that building is also a phenomenal pastry chef. And it was just time for, going through that pandemic was hard. And she had 3 kids that were young. And it's hard running a business with kids that young. She became available and she stepped in and she's helped me like nobody's business. I mean, she's been amazing with that. And then I have another sous chef as well that's just, he came home because of the pandemic, and we've just rocked it out.
Yeah.
It really, from there, I haven't worried a day one. I haven't.
Yeah. Well, you never know where opportunity is going to come, and out of tough circumstances comes opportunity, and it's not like you capitalize it. So, well, listen, I appreciate everybody listening to this episode of Heaping Spoonful with our guest, Tracy Carter of JAC's Craft Smokehouse in West Monroe, Louisiana. We'll be back in just a minute, so hang on.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heaping Spoonful with our guest, Tracy Carter. Tracy, so JAC's went from tailgaters to Smokehouse, and obviously much of what you created from the earliest days worked well with smoked meat, so that's a natural. So, and I guess in your food truck you were smoking meats. Do you just have a big smoker and know how to run it, or how did the whole how's the whole smoked meat process work at JAC's?
So yeah, I do. I use old hickory pits. I love those pits. They're wonderful. I started learning all about grilled meats and smoked meats at a very young age. That was one thing my father and I shared as I was growing up. So I really did, and I just learned how to we talk about all our sauces and seasonings, but I really learned what it was about the meat before I learned anything, and how to respectfully treat each piece of it, and doing so with the proper equipment and the knowledge has been phenomenal. Sure. But I couldn't do any of it without the proper equipment, and Old Hickory Pits has been fantastic, along with my, Benny Keith relationship. Let me say that. So,
yeah, well, that's great. Well, I'm just a fledgling, just getting started on smoking. I love smoked meats. When I go to a barbecue restaurant, I rarely put sauce on it because I just like the taste of the smoked meat so much. And I finished off the end of a batch of some smoked boneless, skinless chicken thighs last night that were pretty fabulous. And my wife said, "You're going to smoke some more chicken thighs this weekend." So we'll get going on that. So I can appreciate the skill and the experience on that. So now let's talk about the fabulous sounding and I'm sure fabulous tasting things you sell at JAC's Craft Smokehouse. I'm going to call this the lightning round, although we don't have to go fast. I'm going to mention a menu item, and you just tell our listeners about it. We're going to start at the top because the very first thing, at least on the online menu, is pimento cheese with seasoned crackers. And what strikes me here, and this is a theme throughout the menu at your place and menus of really good restaurants, is things are made in-house. So the description for the pimento cheese and seasoned crackers says, expertly crafted, house-made pimento cheese served with our in-house seasoned crackers. And so tell us about that dish.
Yeah. So, the pimento cheese, actually, that was one of those born out of necessity, because when we first opened, we decided, let's do some smoked pimento cheese stuffed eggs. Great idea until you figured out how long it took you to make those eggs. So we learned quickly that the labor time involved in that, we were selling them like crazy, but we were spending all our time doing those. So we were like, okay, we can't do the eggs, but the pimento cheese is really good. So we took the pimento cheese and did a few little more twists on it, to make it more of a standalone appetizer, by, utilizing some of our house-made seasonings inside the pimento cheese, and then as well as making some seasoned crackers. The seasoned crackers are actually my pastry chef's seasoning that she came up with here.
Cool. Yeah, I've had those. I love just a good saltine with kind of got a little red pepper flake and a little oil and a few other things on those. There's some name for those, firecrackers or something. But anyway.
Yeah, but we don't use the saltines. We use club crackers. Game changer.
Yeah. Little buttery.
You get that spice with that little buttery. Yep.
That's good. And then not far down the menu is nachos. And again, those sound epic. We have your house fried tortilla chips, and then the diner chooses house crafted pulled pork or chopped brisket. And then you've got expertly seasoned nacho cheese sauce and with one of your barbecue sauces, sweet or spicy. So I don't know how you expertly season nacho cheese sauce, but it's got to be better than the orange stuff I see at the baseball game.
So that is the one product that I still use out of the can. But I season it like crazy. I have a queso, house-made queso that we make in-house. People go crazy over it by itself or with the on our macaroni, because that's what our macaroni is made with. I tried it on the nachos. People didn't care for it. They wanted the yellow stuff. So I said, okay, but I cannot give you this yellow stuff out of this can without doing something to it. So my wife and I worked for the whole time we had the food truck, figuring out the perfect balance of seasoning versus that yellow stuff.
Yeah, that's
So we nailed it, and that's probably one of our number one selling dishes on all of it. People rave about them.
Well, I've barbecue nachos became kind of a thing, and I remember getting them in Memphis at the ballpark, and they were rendezvous, pulled pork barbecue nachos, and that was probably 25 years ago. That's a really cool thing. And then next, as we go down, are handhelds, basically, sandwiches that feature a variety of your house smoked meats. I've already mentioned the pulled pork and the brisket, but you also looks like you smoke ham and you smoke turkey. I don't know that you smoke bacon, but there's bacon on the club sandwich. The one that really catches my eye, though, and makes me drool, is the brisket melt. And I'm going to let the menu do the talking here. So this is a quote from the menu. Our famous chopped brisket, brown sugar caramelized onions, and melted pepper jack cheese served on toasted rye bread, brushed with garlic butter and a portion of horseradish aioli. And man, where did that one come from? Is that another food truck invention? That sounds fabulous.
That actually was a COVID food truck invention.
Wow.
Brisket, if y'all remember, brisket went through the roof during COVID. It was like $8 or $9 a pound. And I was like, how can I stretch that? I love patty melts. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, let's see what I can do with this. So I put it together. I took the first one out the window, and person said, man, that's so good. I said, well, let me try another one. I did another one. The next person did. Boy, you know what? That's our number one selling sandwich outside of the traditional barbecue sandwich.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I love the brown sugar caramelized onions because I love caramelized onions.
Yeah.
That little brown sugar. Ooh, I've got an onion and I've got brown sugar, so I think that's my next sautéing of onions.
Yeah, so that right there, that's the key. A lot of people caramelize their onions without any of that. They just start reducing them down, which is all good because I do it on some other dishes, but for this sandwich, that little bit of sweetness breaks up that richness of that brisket, and it just makes a world of difference. People like, man, these onions there's something different about them, So that really goes. You just learning to balance how to balance all your flavor profiles right there together.
Sure. And then you do a similar treatment with your Smokehouse burger, which features not one, but two 1/3 pound patties. And it seems like every restaurateur I talk to who serves a great burger says it's one of the most popular items because burgers are America's favorite food pretty much. Do you do a good burger business? I see you've also got a 1/3 pounder that's not doubled up if you just don't want to have as much.
I do. And what makes ours so great, it's 100% ground brisket. All the trimmings off our brisket, we trim up and we make the burgers out of that. It is one juicy burger. But the Smokehouse is got a little bit another treatment to it too. It comes with our house-made habanero barbecue sauce on top of it, so it rocks your world a couple of different ways. First in flavor, and the second in heat.
Yeah, it sounds great. Oh, another one on my list. And then, of course, your smoked meat plates, which you can do 1, 2, or 3 choices of the different smoked meats and serve with 2 sides. I mean, as you said, your barbecue sandwich is a huge seller. I'm sure your smoked meat plates have got to be one of your hot items too.
They are. And our number one selling meat plate is our 2 meat plate. Believe it or not, people go for those 2 meats, and it kind of varies from week to week, but it's 9 times out of 10 it's brisket and smoked turkey that's on those plates. Right.
And then what are your most popular sides?
Our most popular side is, believe it or not, we're talked about more about anything, our fried Brussels sprouts.
Oh, I saw those.
Our fried, yeah. We sell a ton of those, and we just deep fry them. They come out of the deep fryer. They get hit with a house-made seasoning, and then a house-made raspberry sauce that we make.
Wow, do you cut them fairly? How big a piece?
Yeah, we cut them in half. We cut them in half. Yes, sir. We make sure that we're careful when we're trimming them. We don't cut them so deep that they'll end up making a bunch of leaves. Right? You're going to get some, but we do. We cut them in half, and unless they're gigantic, and then we quarter them. But that has been a huge seller and talking point for us.
Yeah, I could see why, because that's unique. I mean, it's not but not average. Smokehouse has those, so that's cool. And then I loved seeing, because I've done this a lot, is I see you sell your meats by the pound. So sometimes I've popped into some of my favorite Smokehouse type places, and I'm on the run, and I just want to take a pound of it home. Is that a fairly brisk business for you too?
Yeah, it is. It's just now really getting started. As I told you, we started the restaurant business in October, and it being new, I was very careful on doing too much of the meat by the pound. We just really kind of started that around March timeframe, just simply because I was still learning, right? And I didn't want to go out there and sell everything I had and then not have enough for menus, by doing that. So we just eased into that, and we really haven't hit it full force yet, because I still don't advertise it. Just people that knows.
Right.
So but that's a hot agenda item. Coming up in September, starting in September, especially getting ready for tailgates and stuff like that. Sure. So that's on our marketing agenda starting in September.
Well, and I understand too. The last thing you want to do is sell me 5 pounds of brisket and then have folks that want to come in and buy sandwiches go, I don't have any brisket. So it'll all balance itself out. You'll get it all figured out. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you also, and I know, again, salads are important. They're more important to my wife than they are to me, but they're important. And you have a lot of cool sounding ones. And I see these lettuces that are called DAC, DAKK' lettuces. Tell us about DACs. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that.
So Dax is actually a friend of mine over in Rayville, a little town about 16 miles east of here. They hydroponically grow the lettuce and tomatoes for us here. That way I have the same tasting lettuce today as I will in December, and the same with the tomatoes. It's a butterhead type lettuce, so it's really, really fresh. And the tomatoes are just unbelievable. They're ripe to perfection. They taste like a fresh garden tomato every day.
Yeah, and you can get them times of the year that we're not getting them at the farmers market, because these guys know
exactly
grow them. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, and they're just really, really good. Let me just say that it's hard to explain it, because it's just always fresh. It doesn't taste like a hothouse, if you know what I mean.
I do, for sure.
It just tastes like come out of the ground.
Right. Well, then, and that's a good thing too. I mean, you find good growers and good suppliers, and you say, you're my guy. We're going to have it's going to be your tomatoes and your lettuce, and let's keep them coming. So, and that's, again, there's so much more available to restaurateurs than there was 25 years ago, and it's great when you got a local grower who can take care of something as important as that. And then I was again looking at the section called Classics. It's primarily salads, but it's not all salads. And the very top of the one is, and you mentioned this a minute ago, the Mac Attack. And here's again from the menu: creamy green chili queso mac and cheese, topped with your choice of pulled pork or sliced brisket, dressed with the barbecue sauce, and a sprinkle of crushed in-house fried pork skins. Oh man! So there's where you're talking about using your queso in your mac and cheese.
That's correct. That dish right there is a meal and a half. That was born from a love of chilies. I'm a chili head at heart. So if you ever come in the restaurant, you won't, something says spicy, believe you me, it's going to be spicy. but yes, the green chilies. I love green chilies and poblanos. That's two of my favorite chilies in the world. And so that was kind of a Southwest flair on it, because it seemed like everywhere I turned, everybody had smoked Gouda or the yellow cheese mac and cheese on their menus. And I was like, I can't do that. I got to be a little different. So that's where that came from. And then adding that chopped brisket and pulled pork on it just made it a meal, right? Kind of take you back to your childhood days. What was that stuff in the box? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Kraft mac and cheese. This is nothing like that. No. Now, I remember the first time I had
anything like that.
I remember the first time I had
not anything like that.
grandmother made, real mac and cheese with, starting with a white sauce and then folding the cheese into it as opposed to the orange stuff from the box. So it was pretty good. So you already mentioned that one of the blessings of opening this restaurant was your ability to get the pastry chef who'd been working there before to stick around. And I'm guessing that's who creates the desserts, because your menu says we got fresh desserts every day. So are there certain standards that are always there, or does it switch around? And what are your popular ones?
So yes, she makes everything from scratch. From the daily things are always her cookies. She makes the most phenomenal cookies you ever seen in your life. But in some cobblers, she makes, that changes from mixed berry, blackberry to peach, apple, and stuff. So, but on Wednesdays and Thursdays, she makes these things called Carmelitas that it's just so delectable. It's one of those things that you sit down with a big glass of milk and you eat it. Next thing you know, you've ate the whole pan. But that, and then on Saturday, she makes the dulce de leche banana pudding.
Oh man, that sounds good. Tell us what the Carmelitas are.
Well, the Carmelitas are almost like a magic cookie bar, except it's caramel, white chocolate. She does some with raspberries and white chocolate and raspberry. It is just a big, gigantic brownie is what it is. But
that's the glass of milk. That sounds good. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's just heaven. It's heaven on a plate, I'm telling you.
Yep. Well, that's fabulous. Well, it sounds like it's going so good. And again, we have to remember, while you've been in the food business for more than 15 years, you're still just months into being a restaurateur. But it sounds like, obviously, with your background and your food truck and all the cooking you've done, you really hit your stride. So I'm happy for you, and you're on my list. It's not that far from Little Rock, Arkansas to West Monroe, Louisiana, I can tell you that. So I appreciate you being our guest today on Heaping Spoonful. Good luck with everything you're doing, and continue to thrive at JAC's Craft Smokehouse. Thanks to everybody out there for listening. We post new episodes the first and third Tuesdays of each month. So go back and check out the ones you've missed and keep an eye out for the new ones. And goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.